it's a lot around color scaling and stuff when we talk about maturity in general. Anyways, let's see here. Yes, a little bit about why we want to focus knowledge in product development. We've already seen the paradox that Johan showed, the product development paradox, and a little bit this fact we want to maintain design freedom, but we also want to build more knowledge, and we want to build knowledge early. So we want, and the reason why we want to do this is that we want to make more informed decisions. We want to make sure that the decisions are better. Not always maybe perfect, but at least we get somewhere a little bit better. And I see product development a lot since I am kind of nerdy into knowledge. I see this as the evolution of knowledge or information, and that we do have to invariably do decision making in that type of evaluation. With that, when we evolve that, we will have uncertainty. We will have less certainty that we would probably like. And there will be some levels of imprecision. So it's both absence and kind of a bit fluctuating on that. What we talk about in research on this is the notion of bounded rationality. It's not like we take irrational decisions, but the kind of information we have is kind of limited. And another term, these terms were coined back in the 70s by a guy named Herbert Simon about this. And the term we talk about quite a lot is called satisficing, which kind of can show on this. We are kind of on the way to perfection, but various reasons make it not so perfect. I did my PhD work way back. I did something called the knowledge maturity, which was about kind of taking a meta perspective onto the kind of knowledge base, to look at the knowledge just not for the numbers and results, but also kind of what is the quality of the knowledge base, and what's the maturity of the knowledge base. How much do we know? How well do we know it? To what degree can we assume that our knowledge is certain, etc. In order to be able to do kind of decisions more informed. Do we need to kind of just keep mitigating? Do we need to do rework, stop progress, or do we need to cancel projects altogether? That turned into this type of a scale. So it's kind of a color scale. And the idea was to have that as a backdrop when we evaluate a decision. Do we have a really good situation, processes, and so on? Or is it more like, okay, it's acceptable, it's formalized, or is it just random and just guesswork? Sometimes it's random and guesswork, but probably most often, at least there's formalization or even more active management. I split that into a little bit of detail. So we talked about, okay, what's the input that we get when we do our work? But also, how do we actually do our work? And what's the quality of the tool and fit for purpose of the tool? So maybe sometimes it's a tool that's very well apt for really good and certain information to process, or sometimes we have something where it's a little bit imprecise and therefore tools work better or worse. Also, we came into looking at experience and expertise of people. So experience, whether they've done it a lot or if they are newbies. Sometimes we have newbies, so we need them as well. And they need to kind of grow into being more experienced. So knowing that as well. So focusing then on kind of the model maturity, that's the kind of method side. So here we broke this down a little bit, but looking at the method, we went into the simulation bit, which Johan has explained a little bit more in the intro as well. But the idea is that we want to experiment with the system, either in models or with the actual system. Here we talk about the kind of models. And as Johan already talked about, and I think this is a very early figure of one of the flow charts that he showed, so probably remember those as well. We see that, okay, we will have simulation models working in concert, in iteration, and how does it work when we have uncertainty propagating through those types of models? And can we have a little bit of insight into, okay, we did a lot of work, and what's the uncertainty at the end? We did, I think it was actually in the previous MD3S profile, we did a workshop on this and we talked about it with the profile companies, and a lot of the kind of wishes and challenges kind of came out of this. So we are kind of hesitant to make decisions based on models because we don't know how to trust the models. Can we figure that out in some way? And to have a way to kind of assure, okay, how do we actually assure that the models are trustworthy? Some sort of plan or framework for that. So we came up with this notion of the model maturity. Yeah, the idea is to have that type of a tool to be able to signify this. And we talked about both aspects of maturity, but we also came to you know, the insights around what's the impact of the model. Where are we in the process? Can we kind of understand that part as well? Some things are early in the process, maybe not super impactful, so we can live with more uncertainty. Sometimes it's more central and key. So we came back to color scales. We kind of broke that whole scale into 2 levels, and we kind of flipped the thing. So here we have 2 examples of this. Both it's very, very small, but on the y-axis we have the model maturity, and on the x-axis we have the impact. 1 to 5, and then we color code it. So high impact, of course, then we need to have kind of high model maturity, high maturity of the model, versus if we have kind of low impact early, we can kind of live with in between. So that's kind of short overview on that. So we kind of coined the idea that we need to do more work on it. So that's the idea. And the idea is a little bit to have the decision of having kind of a maturity tool is that, okay, we need more inputs, we need more insights in order to make kind of more informed decisions, but also so we can actually live with more of an inferior knowledge base as long as we know that this is inferior. So I think that's what I have.